Hi, I just want to thank you for taking the time and watching this video about parent-teacher conferences. They are online this year and some over the phone, and I don't know how long things will take because of tech issues or whatnot. So I just wanted to get a general message out to everybody. So thank you for paying attention to this. I also wanted to thank you for partnering with me in this adventure because basically you are doing a part of the teaching job because you're helping at home and just remember you chose it. So part of it, you're just going to have to look at it in a positive light, and we'll just do the best we can with what we have. I did not choose remote teaching. They chose me because of my tech experience. Um, and this has been an undertaking. It really has. So I just wanted to tell you a few things. Like for my own kids, sometimes being a mom has helped me be a better teacher. I want you to know that my own children have said to me many times on occasion that I don't know something, Mom. Like when I go to help them with their homework, you don't know, Mom. I'm like, well, I am a teacher. So, and then they'll say other things like, you're doing it wrong. I'm like, I have 2 degrees and I have lots of stuff. So just expect it. Expect to hear these things out of your own kid's mouth, and then be ready for a response to it. So they know, reaffirm that you did pass 4th grade, and you do know stuff. You are a grown up, and they should pay attention to you. And there are more than one correct way to get to an answer, and it's okay. So just keep thinking in your mind that you might need a message, and realize it's not just you. Know that my kids did it to me, and I am a teacher, so go figure. Some tips that I have learned from being a teacher, because I want to pass this on to you so you're aware of some things that I've learned. I just want you to know that children are masters at learned helplessness. This is a term that teachers use because kids will sit back and they'll be like, I can't do it. I don't know how to do it. And they'll want you to do it for them. But this is why you need to counteract this. It's very important. When you jump in and you just do something for them, you're communicating with your child that they can't do something and that they need someone else to tell them the answers. And unfortunately, when we do this, and I have done it before as a teacher too, it just reinforces their belief that they are incapable of accomplishing something on their own. So it's important to try and take a step back, and it's really hard because you're the parent. You've been there all the way along. When they didn't know how to tie their shoe, you showed them, and if you were in a hurry and someplace to go, you probably jumped in and tied the shoes for them to get them in the car and get going. So, it's a delicate balance. Another thing. Oh yeah, that's what my next point was. It's a delicate balance between pushing them to grow their brains, but not pushing them so far that they get frustrated and they break down. There's a danger with not pushing at all, but instead spoon feeding the information to them. So don't fall into that trap because they will wait you out, and it's kind of hard. And as a teacher, and I'm sure as you guys at home, you don't have all day to do all this stuff. So when they do that stuff, it's frustrating to say the least. Um, it's super hard to find that sweet spot where the work is just right. So you'll need to find out if they're playing you to get them to do your work or do their work for them. But try really hard not to, because it's a hard thing. So one of the techniques that I have used is questioning instead of spoon feeding them. So I will use questioning, like, can you tell me more about that? Or what parts do you know? When they say, I don't know, well, what part do you know? Where did you get stuck? So questioning them to help them process and work through their issues is a really important thing. Never accept negative self-talk, like, I'm not smart. I will never get this. I can't do it. You have to turn that around to make it positive talk. Say, I can't do it yet. And when you believe you can, you can. So some things to do is to Google growth mindset or positive affirmations. They're online. Here's some really old posters from my classroom. You are who you choose to be. Um, Teachers open the door, but you must enter by yourself. So that's some important things. And just because something is hard doesn't, or it's difficult, doesn't mean you shouldn't try. It means you should try harder. Well, that's kind of a not a good thing to say, because when you say to kids, just try harder, they're like, how do you do it harder? You might fall into a trap if you try that. Sorry. So doing what's right isn't always easy, but it's always right. And life is full of choices, so choose carefully. And then take time to do your best. It might be the only chance you get. And then I had another poster with like a soccer scene, and the saying was something along the lines, it is guaranteed that you will miss 100% of the shots that you never take. So those are some things to keep in mind. Hopefully that'll help them. It's okay. Tell your child it's okay to take a break and then come back to the learning, because brains do need breaks, and it's to be expected. So some things to do. The brains are actually pliable. Brains grow. Here's what we've learned in educational research. Einstein, who's a very brilliant man, they studied his brain. He didn't even use half of it. I think it was a little more than a third. So there's lots of space up in our heads that can be developed. Um, Unfortunately, stress with this COVID stuff has happened. Stress and trauma do reduce the amount of pathways and building connections, but the brains can actually build different pathways going around, and sometimes that just takes longer. They've researched it, like for people who have had strokes and part of that brain dies, they can move around and rebuild those pathways. It's fascinating. So brain research shows that deep breathing feeds the brain with more oxygen. Since I'm not reading this correctly, I must be overtired and I need to get more oxygen to my brain. Another thing that you can have your child do is to exercise. Exercising will tie into the back of the brain. It is more of a physical functioning part of the brain, and it will relax the cognitive, which is up in the front, the cognitive part of the brain. And then after doing some exercise for a while, their brain will be better set to go back to the cognitive functions again. And another part that's super important is sleep. Sleep really helps the brain, and also nutrition, and having routines and predictability. So those are some ways you can help your child, especially when they have frustration and they're like, I can't do this. So that's when you need to take a break. Um, Two things I learned. There was a class that I took, and it helped me as a mom. I came away with this two phrases. I've learned a lot of things, but this is not going to be that long of a video. So one phrase was make a mess, clean it up. So I say that a lot. I said it a lot to my kids when they were toddlers and made a lot of messes. The other one was the person who does the work does the learning. And I think I use that one as a teacher way more than any other phrase, because I want to encourage them that they need to try and do the work. And if they do the work, then they will get to be the people who are doing the learning as well. So try those phrases on your friends, your children, I'm sorry. And then take a turn, put it back on them. Like, what is your goal? They have to come up with a goal. What do they want out of life? So what do you want to get out of this? And get them thinking like longer term. And how is this going to help you in the future? Those points are really helpful for kids if they can focus on not just the now, not just this one assignment, but where are they headed to? That is also important. When they get discouraged, bring them back to all the ways that they have grown this year. For instance, they know how to join a Google Meet. They know how to mute and unmute. They can find things online. They can make videos. They can search for answers. There's so much that your child can do. And I think they get so focused on the task right in front of them that they forget how smart they really are. So they just need you to remind them. And it's kind of like when they're little kids. Think of it like when they were itty bitty. Celebrate over the small things. Like for the first time they smiled, you were all like, "Oh, he smiled at me," or "She smiled," and or the laughing. And like if they start forming a word, you encourage them. When they learned how to ride a bike, every little bit. They had problems at first, but just praise, praise, praise over the smallest things, and they will feel more apt to do more, which is important. Um, be fascinated with them and curious what things that they're learning, especially with the science and social sciences. Those are more interesting to be curious about. But even how they're doing with writing and spelling and patterns, and like how do you do these math problems in more than one way, and just be very curious with them and be amazed at how their brains are growing. If you research that Google, growth mindset, if you Google that, you'll find a lot of interesting things that their brains actually do make connections and grow and get bigger. And it's when they struggle that's the sweet spot. So it can't be too easy, it can't be too hard. There has to be a little bit of a challenge to make those brain pathways. And then notice their small steps. Encourage them to be doing the things that they can. The district recently sent me to an online class, and the one thing I brought out of it, and I've shared it with your kids every day, is this research photo out of New Zealand. The pandemic happened, and that we were all shut down and we weren't in class anymore. So it definitely built that gap in the middle. And we have to think, okay, where are we now? And it's not your fault that you don't know. And here's our learning targets, where we're going. And they have to be very cognizant, very mentally, what do you know? And then what do you need to know to get the knowledge that you need for fourth grade and then eventually for fifth grade? So they have to figure out, how do you close the gaps? So I focus on that a lot. How are we closing gaps? Remote learning can be super overwhelming. I know it overwhelms me. So it has to be that much more difficult for you and your child, because I have had the opportunity to have some technology training and get more information, and you guys have not. So try and give yourself grace. It's okay. And let your child definitely know that they're not alone. I think that's the biggest thing you can do for your child, so that they are relaxed and open to learning. If they are feeling overwhelmed, it actually will decrease their ability for their problem solving up in that brain. So let me know what I can do to help. I'm trying to work as hard and as fast as I can. And I work Saturdays and Sundays, and we're just trying to really make this happen. And I really appreciate how everybody's been so supportive and patient and really helpful. So I feel really blessed to have, even though there's so many students, that they're very sweet and kind to each other. And they're very kind to me. So I really am enjoying this year, even though it is a lot of extra work. In-person teaching is much easier in many ways. But remote teaching has been fun too. So anyway, sorry for the super long video, but I appreciate again that you did watch. All right, have a good rest of your day.